Hi folks, this is Vincent Tiki with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly review Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid. This is a cooperative game, although it can be played solo. There are no solo rules in the rulebook. However, I'm sure there's a solo variant online, and I'm currently messing with my own solo variant where I am controlling 6 Rangers separately at the same time. So I'm just testing the waters to see if it's viable or not for when Idly comes back from Boston. And Idly, if you're watching, I swear we'll do our own video. We'll play this. Don't worry. She likes this game too. Yeah, Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid. We've covered this game before, but for those of you that are new to it, it's cooperative. You take on the role of one Ranger or a group of Rangers if you want to handle 2 or 3 at the same time. And you're fighting a boss. Like, you set up the game to fight one boss. And in the core game, it's Rita Repulsa. Ouch. And then there's also some, not main bosses, but, semi-bosses in there. They're called monsters. You might remember Pudgy Pig or Nasty Knight or whatever. These are the weird contraptions that Rita Repulsa would make out of clay or whatever it was. And when it comes to Power Rangers, for the record, I'm old school. I don't know anything about the ninjas or the dino stuff. I'm talking old school Jason, Kimberly, Trini, Billy, and Zach. And then eventually Tommy is the Green Ranger, but he was evil. But then he turned good, but then his candle ran out, so he was turned into White Ranger. Anyway, that's as far as I got. Once they started swapping colors, I kind of lost interest as a kid, or as a young teenager. Anyway, so Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid. Let's jump over to the table, and I'll show you some of the stuffs and see how everything works. All right, so here's a quick look at the box. It is fairly thick, so you'll need some space there, as well as any expansions that you might end up picking up. Again, I have the Legendary Ranger Tommy Oliver pack. I may reference that as the Green Ranger expansion. It's a lot more than that. So, again, my goal is not to do a complete unboxing. We have covered this before, but I do want to give you a brief rundown of what's going on and what you're looking at. So, again, I'm testing a solo 6 Ranger variant that I made up where, you have 6 Rangers. They each work separately because in some of the game modes, some of them are attached to the hip, and when one moves, the other one moves too. It all depends on your player count and Ranger count. But anyway, I'm doing 6 different hands of cards, and I'm trying to figure out if this is viable or not, because that's 30 cards, assuming that each Ranger has a max of 5 cards per hand. Assuming that they have a full hand, that's 30 cards I have to look at to see who should be moving next. That's a lot of work. So I'm just kind of playing it loose and fun, and I'm just picking Rangers that I think would go good together for a certain battle encounter. So the way this game works, it's typically played over 4 or 5 rounds, maybe rarely 6, where, in the first part of a round, you're going to be drawing these location cards, and you're going to be seeding the board with bad guys. So you're going to have, in the core game, Putty Patrollers and Super Putty Patrollers. And you'll find other Foot Soldiers in other expansions, but these are the ones that are in the core set. And you're going to draw 5 of these cards, and you're going to put them, so if I drew this one, it's one Putty Patroller. It says Ernie's Bar as the next card face down here. So I would put one Putty Patroller in Ernie's Bar. The board has 4 locations: Ernie's Juice Bar, Angel Grove Park, the Industrial District, and then Angel Grove High School. And if at any point, as you're seeding monsters on the board, if monsters on a location equal or exceed that number here, then the location becomes panicked. I just did a combat, which is why there's only 2 here as opposed to 6, but there was extra monsters here, but I just finished a combat round. But until these are gone, this will remain. And you lose if you've got panic tokens in all 4 locations. The center space is the command center. As you move your Rangers back to the command center with a move action, you can refresh your deck of 10 cards. Each ranger has a deck of 10 cards, and then you can have a hand of 5. But as you use cards in combat or for defense when you're taking hits, you have to discard these cards, and you can actually become defeated if you take a hit and you have no more cards to draw for defense. So your deck is your life force. So you do have to be careful that you're not overspending on offense, and you need to leave a couple of cards for defense in your deck so that when you do take hits, you can afford to do so without going away. But if you happen to get defeated, that's what these extra lives are. This will vary depending on ranger count and player count, so it's all in the rulebook there. So I have 2 extra lives should that happen. So each ranger has their own unique deck of cards, and depending on who's fighting, you'll be drawing from their hands in order to do things. And each ranger has their own abilities. Like Trini has her own ability. Kimberly has her own ability. Zach and Billy and Jason and Tommy, they each have their own unique abilities that can be used during battle. And as you defeat the bad guys and you fill up this track here, you increase your power level, which I've neglected to move up. You can draw one of these Zord cards, and this is a Zord that can be used. It's a boon, but you can use it and exhaust it typically once per round or once per battle, something like whatever the card says, and you can use it to your advantage. So you're going to be getting stronger as you play by defeating enemies and filling up that track there. And at the bottom of the Zord deck is Megazord. So that's kind of cool too. And as far as like the bosses and the monsters are concerned, the main boss is always going to be Rita Repulsa in the core set, but there are, I think, 4 monsters that serve as like mini bosses. So you're going to choose 2 of them, or do that at random, and you're going to seed this deck here. There's 20 cards plus 2 of the monsters and 1 Rita Repulsa monster card, or 1 Rita Repulsa card. So there's like 23 cards in this deck, and they're seeded a certain way so that round 1 there's typically no boss. Round 2 is 1 monster. Round 3 is another monster. Round 4 or 5, something like that, is Rita Repulsa. So the game is played roughly over 5 rounds, roughly. And for combat, whenever you initiate combat, like in this case, I've got 2 putty patrollers here. Whoever's in this area can fight, even if these are the action tokens. So I can choose right now, do I want to spend Jason's last action token to initiate combat for everyone at that location, or do I spend Kimberly's last action token to initiate combat at that action? And I may look at their respective discard piles to see, okay, which one do I want to initiate combat with, and which one do I want to recover with? When you recover, you can take cards out of your discard pile, put them back into your deck. Or like I said, you can move back to the command center, refresh everything that way. Recover is it's a little bit weaker in the sense that when you're choosing cards from your discard pile, you can only pick so many shields worth of cards. I think it's 6. So you're going to look at the bottom right, and you can only choose 6 shields worth of cards from your discard to put back into your deck. Whereas, again, moving here is the full shebang. You get everything back. So I may have to make that decision, figure out who wants to do the battle. But whoever initiates the battle, all 3 can contribute to that battle by playing cards. And the way that works is there's 2 putties, so you draw 2 cards from the putty deck. And this is what they look like. Some cards are passive. Some cards have like a taunt ability, it's called guard, where they must be attacked before adjacent cards can be attacked. Some have fast, meaning they go to the front of the line and they attack you first before you take your action. But typically the way a round would play an attack round is the Rangers go, and then this goes, and then the Rangers go again, and then this goes, and then the Rangers take one final turn before ending the combat. Now, when I say Rangers, one player plays an attack of some kind. So I might go Red Ranger attacks, and assuming that survives, this will do its thing. And then I'll say the Pink Ranger goes next, and attacks, or it can be the Red Ranger again. Regardless, this will take its action, and so on. And then finally, maybe the Blue Ranger will follow up at the end there. But if you defeat a card by defeating or by doing enough damage to it, you're still going to flip it over. Like, you're going to flip it over like this, and it still takes the action when it comes time for him to do so. So if I defeat this first as my first action, flip it over, then it takes its turn and does nothing. So if you can stay ahead of it, you can wipe the board without taking any hits, assuming that you can keep up and continue doing continuous damage, assuming there's no guard somewhere in there that forces you to attack this as opposed to this. But yeah, and the bosses and the monsters act the same way. There's let me go ahead and pull this out. So there's the Madame Woe cards. You're going to draw 4 of these when she comes out. And there's also, I can't do this one-handed, apologies. But yeah, she's got her own deck, and Bones has his own deck, and then Rita Repulsa has her own deck. So when the time comes for you to do battle with them, they've got their own set of cards that you'll have to get through. And you have to defeat like 4 of those monster cards and 6 of the boss cards in order to defeat them. Defeating the boss, by the way, just wins the game, period. But you can lose if you run out of lives here and another ranger goes down. And then if all 4 locations become panicked, you can also lose the game as well. But that, in a nutshell, is what this game is about. You're going to seed the board with bad guys, and then you're going to take actions to move around the board, to do battle, and to recover to get these cards back into your deck again. That's the general gameplay flow. And we're back. So what did I think of Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid? It's an incredibly thematic, true Power Rangers game. One that I've always wanted. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Power Rangers. My younger brother was more of the Power Rangers person, I think. It's been a while, my memory isn't as good, but I remember watching it with him, and I would be interested in it. Again, I didn't get past a certain point in the series. The White Ranger was kind of it for me. Once it got into the other stuff, I could care less. But yeah, this game oozes theme. Even if you look at the end of... Sorry, I'm Italian, I do this. Thank you. So, come here. Come. You can sit down. There you go. Good boy. So, incredibly thematic. That's what I was getting at here. And if you look at the different decks that each ranger has, you'll realize that it's fairly accurate to the character on the show. Zach has that hip-hop keto thing, which he did in the series. So yeah, Zach, the Black Ranger, did that hip-hop keto thing, and that's actually mentioned in there. Billy, the Blue Ranger, seems to be more of like a tanky character. I mean, he was more of a nerdy character, I think, in the TV show, but I mean, he has a lot of like extra health cards or shields, whatever. A lot of reactions to damage. Jason has a lot of leadership abilities, which stands to reason. Trini has a lot of like, don't spend a whole lot of energy kind of thing. Whereas Kimberly with the bow is super like a glass cannon. Like, she's really good when it comes to blowing things up with her bow. And then the Zords, like, all of that really brought back the memories that I had watching this show as a younger person, as opposed to the very old person I am now, right? So yeah, I when I played this for the first time, I was super happy. I was super happy with it. And I love how cooperative it is and how flexible it is. Because depending on your player count, you'll have like so many power tokens that are like extra lives in your command center. So depending on the player count, depending on how many rangers you like dual wield or just solo wield, whatever, like depending on the number of players and how many rangers each person has, you're going to have a different setup. I wish there was a chart in the back of the rulebook that just made it easy. Because, like, yeah, there is a page in the rulebook that says games with 4 players, games with 3, games with 2. But then somewhere back here, there's games with 6 rangers whenever you get into the expansion content. No mention of solo, so I have to find that somewhere as well, assuming there is a solo variant. Official one, anyway. So it would have been nice to sort of organize that setup aspect of it into an easy-to-read chart that would be in the rulebook so that I don't have to keep flipping or looking at different things to find what I'm looking for. That would have been very helpful. But I do like that everything that you need to know is right on the back, like the player turns and all of that. I like how the combat plays out and how there are strategic choices that need to be made as you're playing this game. For example, like each ranger has their own action point pool, unless you're playing a certain player count with a certain ranger count. But typically, each ranger has 2 actions or 3 actions, and these actions are, they're a valuable resource, as is your energy crystal that you spend on the cards you have, as well as your shared health pool. So when you've got 2 rangers in the same location and both of them can initiate combat, you have to figure out which one should be initiating combat because both will be involved in that combat, and which one should take maybe the recover action following that, or maybe like go back to the command center to rejuvenate their hand and all that stuff. So like there's some decision making to be had on how you coordinate these rangers. So I like that cooperative aspect of it. Yeah, that can lead to an alpha player telling everyone what to do, but that's any cooperative game, really. So, yeah, I like the cooperative aspect. I like how thematic it is. The combat is pretty well done. A lot of dice, but I like how each ranger's abilities and Zords, for that matter, once you unlock them as you play, can modify the dice in some way. There's not a whole lot of modifying of dice, but once you get certain abilities going, you'll get them just fine. So I think I'll wrap things up. He's getting restless. I'll wrap things up by simply saying, yes, I recommend the core game. As I said, this game has several expansions out there. I can't advise you as to which one you should get if you want more content, because there are several bosses and monsters and other rangers, and I don't know where to start with that. Nor do I have the money to experiment. Again, I have the Green Ranger one, or the Tommy expansion, and that includes the Green Ranger, the White Ranger. That includes, I guess he was a Red Ranger at some point, as well as, I don't know, there's a gray robot Tommy monster in there for bad guys. So, like, there's 4 different variants of the Tommy, 4 variants of the Tommy Ranger, and then there's one boss Tommy, that's the bad guy. So that alone has a lot of content in it, I think, and you can add that to your pool of heroes and monsters. I recommend that one because again, I'm so come here. I'm so classic. Like I'm so old school with my Power Rangers. I wouldn't know where to start with anything else, but definitely check this out. This game has a lot of replayability. It has a lot of theme. It's a lot of fun to boot. So definitely check out the core game at the very least. This is Vincent, the ever so restless Tiki. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch y'all next time. Take care.